Okay guys, we're midway through August and we're off for a little road trip. It's Sunday today and we're going to drive to a place in the deep mountains of Sichuan, a mountain range in Chinese called Daliangshan. And there it's got a place that has been hot on the internet for many years now. And this place is often referred to nowadays as Cliff Village. Now what's special about this place is that for most of its 200-year history, it was almost completely separated from the outside world. The exact reason for it, I'm not quite sure. The story I've heard is that 200 years ago, there was a lot of banditry or fighting going on, and to escape from it all, their ancestors basically climbed up this 800-meter vertical cliff face and set up a new life on this mountaintop plateau. And it remained like that for most of the next 2 centuries. Although to make life easier, to allow people to come on and off the mountain with relative ease, they built like a rattan ladder, which was still extremely dangerous. You could see people of all ages, you know, like little children and even the elderly. Also adults, you know, with insane things on their back, like, you know, live animals, you know, refrigerators, you name it. They would climb up and down this rattan ladder and there was really nothing to stop them from falling off the side of the cliff. So it was a really dangerous process, of course. This steel ladder then has 2,556 steps, but it's very steep and it takes about 2 hours to climb up about 800 meters. And that's roughly the equivalent of about 200 floors. So this is going to be quite a big physical test. I would say half the distance we're going to cover today is on the motorway, but then after that, once we reach the mountains, we've probably got another 3 to 4 hours on these mountain roads, but we should get some spectacular scenery. Of course, we are going to be stopping for fuel and refreshments at a service station along the way. I'll get my camera and I'll show you how that's done in China. But apart from that, I'm also going to talk a little bit about my driving experiences in China. So stick with me and I think this should be a fun day out, okay? The road network in China. In a nutshell, I would say it's amazing and so different from how it was 20 years ago when I first came. They had this huge, you know, construction drive, and now basically anywhere in the municipality is easily accessible. Even a lot of these poor villages, previously poor villages, which in the past they only had dirt roads to connect with civilization. So now I feel that nowadays in 2024 there virtually isn't anywhere that it can't reach conveniently by road. So now car ownership is pretty widespread. Whenever people have the opportunity, they do love to drive to places all over China, and literally you can drive to all 4 corners of the nation very conveniently. So that could be the far northeast in Heilongjiang, it could be Hainan in the far south, Shanghai, or you can even drive to places like Tibet or the deserts of Xinjiang, no problem at all. When you're approaching or leaving a big city, it'd be like this. You might have a motorway with 3 or 4 lanes, and this is no trouble at all. But once you're a good way out of the main cities, often you're just left with dual carriageway, like 2 lanes. And that's fine, but if you go at a busy time, like during a national holiday, then they can get very easily congested. You just need like one little thing, one small accident, and then basically you have traffic mayhem. I'm sure on this drive to Cliff Village, we're going to be driving through these insanely long tunnels and also over really long bridges. So really the feat of engineering that has gone into these huge infrastructure projects and the manpower involved is really quite astonishing. The next one I want to talk about are the toll booths. When you enter the toll booths in China, there are two things you can do. One is you can go through the staffed booths, and what happens is the cameras scan your license plate so you're registered on the system, and normally the workers, they will give you like a card which you keep on you, and then whenever you reach your destination you hand them the card, and then they can check what distance you have travelled on the motorway system, and then you just pay your fare. I think you can still pay with cash, but normally the done thing is WeChat or Alipay, basically e-payments. So I think the most convenient option is what they call the ETC. So the ETC stands for electronic toll collection. So my wife applied for our ETC, and I think she applied for it through the China Construction Bank. And normally if you just let them know, they have some sales representative for the ETC system, and you sign a couple of forms. You have to bind a credit card account. You will install like the card reader. So basically it's a small, kind of like a bank card sized card reader, and it is glued onto the top of your windscreen on the inside. And then you have like one of these bank card sized ETC cards which you push into the machine. It makes like a little bleep once you've put it in correctly. And then whenever you go through the ETC toll booths, you have to drive through quite slowly, between 20 or 40 kilometers an hour. But anyway, as long as it's functioning properly, it will detect your card reader. When I installed this latest one, it worked fine for a while, but then every now and then when I was driving through the toll booths, it would fail to detect the card reader. If the card reader doesn't function properly, or if you don't have one at all, then the barrier is not going to open. So if the barrier doesn't open, then basically the workers are going to come out, they're going to tell you to reverse out of the toll booth. So you can imagine what the situation is like. You can have a whole line of cars all having to reverse out. And then you also have oncoming traffic that could be approaching you at 100 kilometers an hour. So as you can imagine, that's pretty dangerous. So when that started happening to me, I eventually got fed up and I didn't go to the bank. The bank really wasn't that interested in resolving the problem. They just told me to go to the ETC centre. I took a ticket to take my place in the queue, and in fairness, I thought the service was pretty good. He took the old one, gave me a new one, installed it for me. I kept the original card, there wasn't an issue with that. And then really, I would say for the 6 years after, there's been no problem at all. I would say worldwide, maybe Chinese drivers do have a bad reputation. Maybe they're not always that great when it comes to courtesy issues, maybe giving way. But for the most part, especially on a day like this when the roads are pretty quiet, I would say like the standard of driving is pretty good. Don't get me wrong, there are lots of video nasties out there. If you search on WeChat or YouTube, road accidents in China, you are going to see the most insane things imaginable. But you have to remember, this is a country of 1.4 billion people. If you think of the crazy stuff that goes on in the USA every day, they only have a population of 330 million, so we're talking like 4 times the population here. So you have to understand, when there are 1.4 billion people living here, inevitably, bad things, crazy things are going to happen. So I'm not going to deny that whatsoever. If you go back to those video nasties, I would say on the motorways, the most common situation you see is when people have missed their motorway exits or are about to miss them, and they choose to come to a complete stop in the middle of a motorway. But you have to remember there are these huge HGVs, lorries, trucks driving around everywhere, and some of them have really big loads. So when they see somebody has come to a complete stop at a motorway exit in the middle of the road, then it's often the case they have no way to slow down. So either they had to crash into them or swerve around them, but then often that will end with the vehicle jackknifing. So for me, that is the situation that maybe concerns me the most. But even on those big road trips down to Hainan or Sichuan Province, I've never really had any problems or seen anything like that. Fourth one, service stations. Okay guys, we've been driving for over 2 hours and we've made it to Yibin East service area. We're not going to be stopping too long, we're just going to get a couple of refreshments. So let me just give you a very brief tour. Over there we have a fuel station, but I'm not going to fill up the car right here. I'm going to wait until we get to the mountains, and then at the final stop I'm going to fill up the tank. Here we have the toilets, they're always really big. Then over here we have a range of convenience stores, snack stalls, and also we have a tourism service centre over there. So let's go inside and take a quick look. There's even a buffet in there. Do you fancy trying it? Yeah. 35, okay, that sounds a bargain to me. You know, it's not going to be like 5-star dining, but it's pretty reasonable. You get a decent choice. And most importantly, we can get a fill for a decent price, and then that should do us until we reach our destination. This is the buffet restaurant. I'm not quite sure if it's ready yet. Oh no, I can see there are lots of food choices here. Okay, so we've got some chicken, lots of vegetables. That's like brine cooked stuff. We've got the xiaobai, we've got the egg, lotus roots, egg and tomato. Yeah, we have got some more over here. Got some pickled vegetables perhaps, some aubergine, pumpkin, and also dumplings. Looks like meatballs in here. Some soup with radish. Okay, so actually a pretty decent choice, yeah. Okay, you're going to pay for 3 people. Right, so it is 35 yuan each. That's a very reasonable price, and we just pay by scanning this QR code. And that's a tart I bought yesterday, so I'll be having that for dessert. That was pretty good value for 35 yuan. As for taste, I'd probably give it a 5 or 6 out of 10. Definitely passable. We have some massage chairs. And even some accommodation. I don't know where exactly you stay here, but I guess if you're here late at night and you want a couple of hours of sleep, then they can get you sorted here. This is like a convenience store. Of course, you're going to pay a bit more than your average supermarket in the main city areas, but I think that's understandable. This is one of my favourite drinks. This is the Hainan Province coconut milk. I think in the city area this will cost you about 5 yuan. Here it is 9. So I think it's safe to say in general you'll be paying anywhere from 50 to 100% more. You will also see a lot of the service area convenience stores sell some local snacks, local specialties. I don't know what the local specialty is in Yibin apart from the rice wine, but this is a product I haven't seen before. Let's quickly go and see what else we have over here. Now I still drive one of those classic internal combustion engine cars, but if you drive a new energy vehicle, that's still not a big problem. We have a big line of charging piles here. We even have a run full of chicks here. They're very cute. Oh. Okay, we're only about 20 kilometers down the road from the last service station. So actually it wasn't as far as I was expecting. Anyway, we're going to fill the car up because I'm not quite sure how we're going to do for fuel stations between the final exit and then the drive all the way through the mountains to Cliff Village. But anyway, this transaction has cost us 325 yuan for 37.7 litres. So that's roughly about $45 if we're not mistaken. It looks like we're paid up, so let's get back on the road. Now, should you use regular tyres or the run flats? Now, if you're in like a quiet community in, I don't know, upstate New York or my home in Leicestershire or something, you know, you have these quiet roads, like big expanses and all that, you know, traffic is not flowing too quickly. Then, yeah, I suppose you can use the regular tyres, and then if you were unlucky and you got a puncture, you had to pull up, you're probably not going to be in that much danger. So I would say in China, if you have a puncture on a busy road, it could be bad news because getting the jack out, changing your spare tyre or something could be a nightmare. And I would say the likelihood of you being smashed into by a truck, one of these big lorries or something, or even another private car is a lot higher. That makes me feel comfortable. I think the run flats are 100% the best choice. I mean, they are more expensive. It does make your ride a little bit more bumpy, but I have that peace of mind that if I get a puncture, then I'm going to be able to continue driving. So if I got a puncture now, I could drive off the motorway, maybe enter like a local village, and normally they will have like a little mechanic shop or something, and for about 80 yuan they'll patch the tyre for you, compress the air back into the tyre, and then off you go. For now, I want to thank you for watching and listening. I hope you'll see with your own eyes that the infrastructure, the road system in China is excellent. The drivers are really not as bad as we see in the video nasties. Okay, so thank you for watching. Stay tuned to this series and I will see you a bit later, okay? So Lucky, what do you think? It's beautiful. Do you want to climb that? Right, we made it. I mean, that was a hell of a long day. We probably drove over 8 hours, nearly 500 kilometers. And actually it felt a lot further than I was expecting. And now we've come here. You know, the area is quite beautiful, but at the same time, you know, the last hour has kind of been a bit of a building site. They're building a new motorway, which I think maybe a year or two down the line when it's open to the public, it's going to make coming to places like this a whole lot easier. But tomorrow, as long as the weather holds up, I'm going to try and climb that steel ladder and spend a night with the local community on top of the mountain up there. My feelings at the moment is that it's pretty damn steep. So now I can see with my own eyes, I'm feeling a little bit nervous about it, but as long as we take our time, I think we're going to be okay. Okay, so that's crisis averted. Lucky and my daughter are happy enough with the room and they've got something to eat, albeit a bit simple, downstairs in the canteen. They're going to be staying here for the next 2 nights, but fingers crossed, as long as I can make it up that steel ladder, I'll be staying up on the mountain tomorrow and then joining them again on Tuesday. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this first vlog of this series in the Daliang Mountains. It's been a long one today, but I've enjoyed the trip and I'm looking forward to tomorrow. So if you liked it, don't forget to subscribe and push that like button, and I will join you again very soon for the next installment. Catch you later.